Picture this. You hear the word shark, and what pops into your head? Let me guess, massive fin slicing through the water, rows of razor-sharp teeth. Basically the ocean's most terrifying nightmare, right? And honestly, who could blame you? From childhood cartoons to Hollywood blockbusters, we've been fed this image of sharks as mindless killing machines. But hang on a second. What if I told you that everything you think you know about sharks is only scratching the surface? What if I showed you a shark so tiny, so unbelievably rare, that it's only been spotted twice in human history? Would that change your mind? Now, take a look at this little creature. Seriously, look at it. What do you reckon this is? Some kind of fancy tropical fish? A baby dolphin, perhaps? Wrong. This, my friends, is a shark. Yes, you heard that correctly, a proper, legitimate shark. It's called the pocket shark. And it's so extraordinarily rare that scientists have only encountered it twice. Ever. In the entire history of marine research. Let that sink in for a moment. But here's where things get interesting. Why on earth is this shark so ridiculously small compared to its cousins? And is it genuinely as rare as they say? Or are we just looking in the wrong places? Because yes, a mind-blowing fact for you. We've only explored about 5% of our oceans. 5%. And of that tiny fraction, we've only identified roughly 20 to 25% of shark species. So it's entirely possible, isn't it, that there are countless other bizarre and wonderful shark species lurking in the depths, just waiting to be discovered. Maybe this pocket shark isn't as rare as we think. Maybe we're simply not looking deep enough. To properly understand this mystery, we need to start from the beginning. We need to talk about just how many shark species we actually know about today. Back in 2010, deep in the Gulf of Mexico, scientists stumbled upon something extraordinary. A miniature creature, barely 14 centimeters long. That's roughly the size of your mobile phone swimming about in the dark waters. This was the ultra-rare pocket shark. Now, you might be thinking the name comes from its pocket-sized dimensions. And fair enough, that makes sense. But here's the twist. You'd be wrong. Despite being small enough to fit in your pocket, this shark is actually named after two large pouches located just in front of its fins, similar to a kangaroo's pouch. These pouches produce a luminous fluid, and the way the shark uses this fluid is absolutely fascinating. When the pocket shark detects potential prey nearby, it slowly releases this glowing fluid from its pouches. The light attracts smaller fish, luring them closer until, snap, dinner is served. It's like having a built-in fishing lure attached to your body. Brilliant, isn't it? But the story doesn't end there. If the pocket shark senses it is in danger, it is about to become something else. Estineret rapidly releases this same luminous fluid to confuse predators and make a quick escape. It's offensive and defensive weaponry rolled into one. Think of it like a squid releasing ink. Except this ink glows. Pretty clever stuff. Now, I should mention that this is largely speculation by scientists because, as I said earlier, this species has only been found twice. The first specimen was discovered 36 years earlier, back in 1984, in the Nazca submarine ridge off the southeastern Pacific Ocean. That original specimen is now sitting in a museum in St. Petersburg, Russia. And here is the problem. The shark is so incredibly tiny that dissecting it is next to impossible. Studying something that small, trying to understand its internal organs and systems, is extraordinarily difficult. It's like trying to perform surgery with oven mitts on. But let's put our thinking caps on for a moment. If this shark is releasing luminous fluid, doesn't that suggest it might live in the deep trenches of the ocean? After all, bioluminescence, that's the fancy term for producing light, typically evolves in creatures that live where sunlight can't reach. It makes sense, doesn't it? The deeper you go, the darker it gets. So having your own light source becomes incredibly useful. And if we're talking about deep ocean layers, the pocket shark isn't alone down there. In fact, you'll find shark species in virtually every layer of the ocean, from the sunlit surface waters all the way down to the pitch-black abyss. Different species have evolved to thrive in different environments, which naturally leads us to ask, how did this happen? How did sharks become so diverse, so perfectly adapted to every niche in the ocean. To answer that, we need to dive into the evolution of sharks. And trust me, this is where things get properly mind-blowing. Sharks are among the most ancient creatures ever to exist on Earth. The first sharks evolved approximately 450 million years ago. Let me repeat that. 450 million years. That's before trees existed, before dinosaurs walked the earth, before anything even remotely resembling modern life appeared. Sharks were already here, already perfecting their craft as apex predators. And here's what absolutely blows my mind: they're still evolving today. Sharks were swimming in the oceans when the very first sea creatures decided to crawl onto land and try their luck on solid ground. Sharks were there when the supercontinent Gondwana split apart into the individual continents we know today. And sharks were still there, still surviving, when Earth experienced 5 major mass extinction events. Let that sink in. 5 times the world essentially ended, wiping out countless species, reshaping entire ecosystems, and sharks just carried on. They endured. They adapted. They survived. So what makes them so incredibly resilient? What's their secret? Let's go back to the beginning. The very first sharks appeared during a period when bony fish were just starting to develop teeth. These early sharks, coelacanthodians, were among the first creatures that could properly hunt and tear apart their prey. This gave them a massive advantage. Then, as time marched on, we entered the Middle Devonian era, which gave rise to the first fully formed, properly structured shark, the Lenotis shark. This creature had an eel-like body about 16 inches long, torpedo-shaped for speed, with a forked tail and small jaws. Those jaws might have looked small, but don't let that fool you. They could take down fish several times their own size. Fast forward a bit further, and we hit the Carboniferous period. This era is often called the Golden Age of sharks. Actually, it was the Golden Age for most animals, but sharks particularly flourished during this time. They rapidly evolved into different species: rays, skates, chimeras. People call them ghosts. Sharks sent several strange species with names you can barely pronounce. This period of rapid development essentially crowned sharks as the kings of the ocean. But it wasn't just their bodies that evolved. Their senses developed to such an extraordinary degree that they became virtually unstoppable hunters. Sharks can detect fish from 15 meters away. They have a reflective layer behind their eyes called the topitum lucidum, which allows them to see perfectly in low light conditions. Their sense of smell is so acute that they can detect a single drop of blood dissolved in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Imagine that level of sensitivity. And then there's their most remarkable sense, electroreception. Using sensors on their snouts, sharks can detect the electrical impulses produced by muscle contractions. This means they can sense prey buried beneath the sand on the ocean floor, completely hidden from sight. They literally have a sixth sense. It's like having built-in metal detectors, except they're detecting heartbeats and muscle movements instead of coins. With these abilities combined, sharks became the ultimate apex predators. Today, over 1,000 different shark species exist worldwide, and they've maintained their dominance not for decades, not for centuries, not even for thousands of years, but for 450 million years. Sharks are literally survival machines, perfectly engineered by evil. Now, if we want to truly understand sharks, we need to study them individually. Different species behave differently, live in different environments, have different hunting strategies. But here's the challenge. Tracking sharks is incredibly difficult. Sometimes you'll find the same species thriving in completely different environments. Other times, you'll discover entirely different species sharing the same habitat. It's complicated, to say the least. So in 2007, a team from the Mote Marine Laboratory in Florida, working with Mexican whale shark scientist Rafael de la Parra, decided to try something new. They traveled to Cancun, where whale sharks gather to feed, and attached a pop-up satellite tag to one of them. These tags are fascinating pieces of technology. They record data about temperature, pressure, depth, and location, then transmit everything to satellites. After 5 months, they automatically detach from the animal. The scientists named this particular whale shark Rio Lady. During the tracking period, something interesting happened. Rio Lady's buoyancy suddenly changed, indicating she was pregnant. This explained why she was traveling along coastal areas firstly, because there's more food near the coast, and secondly, because it's safer for giving birth. This answered a long-standing question about why sharks are often spotted near coastlines during breeding season. Unfortunately, before they could gather more information, the 5 months ended and the tag detached. But this research opened doors. In 2018, scientists returned to the same location with upgraded technology. A spot tag, which provides even more precise data. And here's where it gets unbelievable: they found Rio Lady again. The exact same shark, in the same location. What are the odds? With the new tag activated, they observed something fascinating. Rio Lady's travel path was completely different from her previous journey. Not a single route matched. This study suggested something crucial. Unlike many wildlife species, sharks never repeat their migration pathways year after year. And this migrating behavior has given sharks tremendous evolutionary advantages, allowing them to dominate the entire ocean. Scientists also noticed that sharks never travel in groups. The reason is simple. A single shark consumes about 20 to 30% of the marine life in its region. If 4 or 5 sharks traveled together, there wouldn't be enough food for everyone, and the entire ecosystem would collapse. Let me explain this in more detail. Sharks hunt sea turtles. Sea turtles eat sea. If sharks disappeared, sea turtle populations would explode, and they devour all the sea. Without seagrass order, marine life that depends on it would starve and die off. On the flip side, if sharks killed all the sea turtles, seagrass and algae would grow uncontrollably, blocking sunlight and oxygen from entering the water. Either scenario results in ecosystem collapse. Sharks maintain the balance. They're not just predators, they're ecosystem engineers, essential to ocean health. But here's the heartbreaking reality. At the rate we're killing sharks for our benefit, ocean ecosystems won't remain balanced for much longer. According to numerous studies, 100 million sharks are killed every year for their meat, internal organs, skin, and fins. That's roughly 200 sharks per minute. And here's what makes it even worse. 73 million sharks are killed annually just for 3 or 4% of their body parts. The rest is discarded as waste. Add government-sponsored shark culls to that, and you'll understand why 31 shark species have already gone extinct. Think about this for a moment. Sharks have been evolving for over 450 million years. They've survived 5 massive mass extinction events that wiped out most life on Earth. And now, they're facing extinction because of human commercial activities. Because of greed. Because we want shark fin soup and beauty products, and alleged medicinal ingredients that don't even work. So here's the situation we're facing. We need to sit down and ask ourselves a serious question. What matters more, a handful of industries making money from shark products, or maintaining healthy marine ecosystems? Because we can't have both. Not at this rate. The answer seems pretty obvious to me. What do you think? Will governments take action to protect sharks? Or will industries keep paying off politicians while we watch another environmental catastrophe unfold? I genuinely want to know your thoughts on this. And whilst you're thinking about that, let me ask you something else. Don't you think sharks, as organisms, have evolved brilliantly? The way they've adapted to every ocean environment, the way they've survived for hundreds of millions of years, it's genuinely remarkable. They're living proof that evolution creates perfect solutions to survival challenges. If this video taught you something new, if it changed the way you see sharks even slightly, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you want more content exploring the incredible world of science and nature, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Because there's so much more to discover. So many more fascinating stories waiting to be told. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and keep growing. Cheers.